Hello, everybody, and welcome to Political Bite number 313, dated October 5th, 2021. I'm Walter, your mobile historian and blue-collar scholar. Thank you so much for tuning in. This Political Bite is entitled Critical Race Theory and Censorship. Before I begin, however, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Juarez Lee Shelton, M.A., and in addition to doing that, please also click on the little notification bell immediately to the right of the subscribe button. In doing so, you will receive notices when I post new, exciting, and enlightening videos in history, law, political science, theology, and philosophy. Thank you in advance. So again, this video discusses critical race theory and the movement to censor it being taught in schools. So, critical race theory, for those who are unaware, you might not know what it is, but I'm sure you've at least heard about it in the news, and social media, wherever. Critical race theory is defined as a field of scholarship which holds that racism in the United States is not a feature that is based in isolated incidents of pure bias and dislike, them, that person, and that one over there. No. Instead, critical race theory argues and defends very well the reality that racism in America is something that is deeply embedded in our institutions and laws, aka institutional racism, all right? The laws in our country, as most of you know very well, all right, once defined an individual's status as free or enslaved based on one's race. Race also rigidly governed whom you could and could not marry or cohabitate with. It also governed where you could buy a home, all right? Where you could obtain meaningful employment, where you could buy and sell land, operate a business, rent a hotel room, vote, run for political office, be appointed to office, serve on a jury, attend elementary, high school, college, grad school, law school, med school, and the like. I think you get the idea, with all due respect, that racism pretty much was embedded into virtually all of America's institutions. And no, while each and every single American did not subscribe to racist beliefs, so many did, and so many institutions did, that it certainly shaped the direction of this country and its culture toward minorities for many, many years and continues to do so to this very day. All right? And critical race theory teaches us these things. And it is, of course, serious and very hard truths to come from critical race theory about our country. These truths are so damning and convicting, all right, that a large segment of America's population doesn't want them to be taught in schools. And it makes you wonder why, but we already know why, okay? Opponents of critical race theory allege that these things serve to do nothing but divide the country, and they have no inherent educational value. So the truth has no educational value? That's unique. Basically, the argument here is that factual truths about American history have no place in schools because they are so real and damning to an image that racism is not embedded in America's DNA. Individuals who are opposed to critical race theory being taught in school are advocating for censorship of the plain and honest truth about America that is backed by the historical record. All right? The sad irony and hypocrisy of it all, however, is that these same people, all right, primarily right-wing ideologues, are the same individuals who kick and complain regularly about social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, allegedly censoring their divisive rhetoric that in actuality has no socially redeeming value. Thus, in their minds, it is perfectly logical to ban and thus censor truthful information from the public educational realm. But it is entirely unacceptable to these folks, to censor their useless and factually divisive rhetoric from social media platforms, which only serve to incite chaos, Here, folks, are the mindsets of right-wing extremism that has done more to divide this country than anything else in the modern era. These people are pure hypocrites in fact and form, and show an unmitigated level of contempt for the truth, or at least a version that contradicts the Pollyannish version of their own. So, no, ladies and gentlemen, the truths about our great country's history are not pretty, They are not comfortable. They are not pleasant, but they are facts. And the facts do not care about one's feelings. I know you've heard that before. John Adams, our nation's second president, said most eloquently in the year 1770, when he was a lawyer for the British soldiers involved in the Boston Massacre. Adams had a very decorated past prior to attaining the White House. He's my favorite founding father, by the way, primarily for his foresight and his most ardent opposition to slavery. He was one of the very few prominent founding fathers who was never a slaveholder, by the way. If you didn't know that, feel free to look it up if you don't believe me. So, again, in 1770, he was a lawyer for the British soldiers involved in the Boston Massacre. And during the course of those trials, Adams stated a very famous quote, that facts are stubborn things, ladies and gentlemen, and whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or the dictates of our passion, they cannot alter the state of facts and evidence. That's it. That's all you need. The facts and evidence of institutional racism in this country are clear and cannot be concealed because they do not paint our beloved country in a good light. Nobody's country has a perfect history, but it does no one a service to just completely ignore that history, regardless of how good or terrible it is. Now, don't interpret that statement to mean that I support Confederate statues. You don't need Confederate statues to teach about the Civil War. We learned about the Civil War through books, through the oral tradition, many other ways. We don't need a giant statue of Robert E. Lee in the town square to teach about the Civil War. Certain people don't need to be honored. Traitors, even if they were pardoned by Congress, don't need to be honored. Those who are traitors against this great land don't need to be honored to teach the history about their treachery. But back to the subject at hand. None of this is meant to demean or devalue America, a land that we all love. At least I do anyway. And because we love it, we need to understand it fully and truthfully so that the mistakes of the past are not passed on to future generations. The legendary author, playwright, and civil rights activist James Arthur Baldwin once said that not everything we face can be changed, but nothing can be changed unless we face it. That statement is without one word of falsehood to it. From it, we gather that not everything we encounter will be able to be changed, We know that. We're not going into this with our eyes closed. You know, there are certain things that cannot be changed, such as people's hearts and minds. We really don't care, all right, about changing people's hearts and minds. The law can be used to restrain the heartless, as Dr. King once said, okay? But nothing can be changed unless we face it and confront it. If things like institutional racism are not confronted, guess what? They will never be changed, and they will be passed on to more generations. We don't want that. I don't want that. You don't want that. All right? And, you know, in order to change the realities and legacy of institutional racism, people must be taught its history. All right? Only when that history is taught and known can we make affirmative movements to eradicate it once and for all. And critical race theory, all right, therefore must be taught in schools to educate the youth, to educate others as to what exactly has shaped the development of America, all right? Critical race theory teaches the learner that racism in this country, which has been codified into law and reinforced through our country's institutions throughout the centuries, is not a group of isolated incidents, ladies and gentlemen. Far too many things have occurred for it to be just a group of isolated incidents. That's not how it works, all right? Things that we have in the present day, if you need some examples. Things such as highlighted police killings, you know, of black people and facing little to no accountability for it. Blighted cities, all right? And the lack of real opportunity for many to rise from poor and unemployed conditions are overwhelmingly the results of institutionalized racism, all right? You get a conviction, you can't get a job. So you continue to rob and steal, and the cycle just goes on. Guess what? That was all put into place. It was designed to be that way. All right? I mean, it's no clearer way to say it. Most of the social problems we have today, poverty, blight, you know, unemployment, disinvestment, I mean, all of this was designed. Ladies and gentlemen, it was designed, all right, more than a century ago to be this way, all right? It's institutionalized racism. This stuff just didn't happen overnight. Things like redlining and other things, considerable reason why you have so much blight in inner cities today, including my own Baltimore. And I can say that because I was born and raised here. It's the city that I love. But boy, do we have it. And yes, redlining is a significant cause for that. So, racism is therefore a near inherent part of our beloved country's history from its beginning. And the reason I say near inherent is because it didn't have to be that way. All right? Nor does it have to be that way. Racism is not natural. It is not an inherent behavior or characteristic, but instead it is one that is learned and taught to others. No one is born racist. You do not come out of your mother racist. You come out of your mother white. You come out of your mother black. You come out of your mother Asian, okay, Latino. But you do not come out of your mother racist, all right? One learns racism and practices racism, just as any other habit is learned. And it can be unlearned like any other habit and no longer applied. This is the only way we will see our country live up to its true potential, all right? And Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said during the 1963 March on Washington, he said it most eloquently. For this country to be able to live out the true meaning of its creed is the best way to put it. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. All right. So in order for us to be able to actually fulfill that beautiful statement that's on America's birth certificate, known as the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. All right? Jefferson doesn't have any qualifiers in that statement. All men theoretically would mean all men. And in order for us to fulfill that statement and live up to the true meaning of its creed, all right, the truth must be taught. All right? Critical race theory, ladies and gentlemen, is that truth. And the truth should never be censored. So I thank you for listening to my passionate statement on critical race theory and censorship. You may agree with me. You may not agree with me. In any case, I asked, should we engage in discussion on the matter? We keep it civil and behave like adults. Thank you again so much for listening. If you like this video or gain some insight from it, please drop me a like on it. It would greatly be appreciated. And if you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel at this point, please do so now. Juarez Lee Shelton, MA. All right. It's highly, highly appreciated. So I want you to take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. Be blessed. And I'll talk to you at the next video. Peace.